Alright, so in this video I want to show how to have an NPC that is playing a different animation altogether instead of these predefined idle animations that I've distributed with my starter pack here. So what I'm going to do is, well, I've already got some animations that I want to use that I've already downloaded. You can see here in the NPC gestures, I added one, or no, it's not there. Where is it? It's in NPC. I've added injured, hurting, idle. So, this isn't going to necessarily be, well, maybe this will be there if I commit it, but you might not have this one. Just find an animation that you want one of your characters to be playing constantly and download it and add it to your project. Then the next step is going to be inside of this animations NPC folder. I'm going to make a new animator controller, which that's what these are. The things, all of our NPCs, if we expand these game objects and find the NPC game object that's a child, and we look at the NPC script, you can see it has an animator controller plugged in. And we included like 3 choices here so they don't all look exactly the same. But this is going to be what I'm going to do if I want to make a totally different animation. Like in this case, I want her to appear that she's hurt and she's like laying on the floor. But actually, I don't think that's what this animation is just yet. But I will make it look, I'm going to have her start with this and then like go into a different pose afterwards maybe. But this seems to convey that she's injured pretty well, which is what I want for my story. All right, so I'm going to right click in this animations NPC folder and make a new animator controller. There it is. And I'm going to call it NPC hurt, I guess. And I'm going to double click to open it up. And if in case somehow it doesn't open for you, if you click on the window menu at the top and you choose animation and then animator, it'll open this guy up. And then next I need to find my animation that I added. I just downloaded it from Mixamo. I need to make sure that it's set up as humanoid, and I'm going to use avatar definition. I'm going to copy from another avatar, and I'm just going to select, in this case, the avatar that I'm using it on, which is this character called Jody. So we should have one of these for all of our characters. I think it would pretty much well work no matter which you pick, but I'm just going to go ahead and pick the one that corresponds with the character that I'm going to use it on. But I think you could still use this on like any of your characters. And then I'm going to look at the animation tab on this animation and just make sure it has a reasonable name. And then the other thing I want to do is I'm going to make sure that loop time is checked, because I want this one to loop. So in other words, she's just going to keep playing this over and over and over. If we don't have loop selected, what happens is she could like freeze on the last frame when she's done playing it, and I don't want that. I want it to just keep playing this over and over and over. So this is all set up right for me. The next step is to find the animation in this folder. So assets, animations, NPC, and I've got my injured, hurting, idle. I'm just going to drag that into my NPC hurt animator controller that I made, and it just creates this default state that's set up to play that animation. And I think that's really all I need. The next thing I'm going to do is find that Jody NPC that I want to use it on, go to her NPC element here and plug in that new animator controller that I just created, which is going to be on the NPC script. So rather than use this generic one, I could just drag in the new one that I want to use, or you can click this little button and select it from a list like this. And I want to use the hurt one. And so I'm going to hit play, and I can already guess that my camera work isn't going to be spot on here. She's all out of the frame. But if I go to the scene window, I can see that she's playing that animation like I wanted. So once I've changed what animation she's using, I guess I might need to change my cinematography and change that sequence to use like a wide shot or some kind of other different camera angle. But the result here is that she's going to be playing this animation forever. If I wanted to have her play a different animation when this animation is done, I could add a new, like I could like have her switch to like any of these other animations really, and I would just right click and hit make transition, and what this would do is instead of looping this over and over, as soon as it finished, it would go and play this one. So you can research how the Unity animator works and create like some pretty complex animation graphs here, but I think you'll get a lot of mileage out of just choosing one custom animation to use here. All right, and so there's one more scenario that I want to cover here. I have a character that's going to be almost more like a prop than a character. I want this zombie to be somebody that the other NPCs have already defeated, like they've killed him for real, like crushed his brain. I don't know. Maybe I'll find a big rock to put over his head. But he needs to be laying on the ground. And so what's going to happen is the player can like find his body back here by the dumpster and search it and get the key to the garage, because he's like a security guard that would have keys. But it's not going to work with any of my current animations. He needs to be like laying on the ground. And I don't want him actually like playing an animation. I just want it to be like on one frame. So what I'm going to do is go to Mixamo, go to animations, and I'm just going to search like death or dying and see if I can find something that has a frame where the character's on the ground. So like, there we go. That's pretty good. And then I'm going to pause it on the part I want, because I really only need like that one frame. And it looks like it's like frame 71 is good. I could like drag through, and actually if I go a little farther, he's kind of more settled on the ground. So let's just use the very last frame. I'll just double check that looks pretty good. And so over here, I'm going to trim this thing and only use the last frame. I guess it would be frame 89, but kind of confused. So the numbers here didn't seem to really match the numbers here, but I just moved it all the way to the right to just get I only want one frame, but I guess that's not going to be possible. 99 and 100. Anyway, it's playing right now, and you can see that it doesn't involve any movement, so that'll work for me. And I guess what this will do is just save me from downloading. Basically, I just need a pose. I don't need all the data for the rest of that animation. So it'll make my animation a little more lightweight, I guess. And I'm going to hit download, and I'm going to choose for Unity and without skin, and download that thing. And then when it's done, I'm going to add it to my animation folder. So I'm just going to kind of rename this like one frame, or I'll call it pose at the end because that's kind of more accurate, and I'll drag that in. And what I'm going to do now is make another animator controller. So we will create a new animator controller, and I'm going to call this one dead, NPC dead, I guess. And before I put my animation in it, I need to set up its import settings correctly. So I had my death pose. It needs to be set up to use a humanoid avatar, which I can just copy one of the existing ones. I notice I don't have an avatar for Derek, which is an indication that I haven't set his model up correctly. So I'll have to remember that. I'm going to hit apply. Errors found. Let's look at the messages. Okay, so this is giving me an error. Let me see if I can find, let's go to our actual character we want to use this on, which is this Derek guy. So we're going to go into our models, characters, Derek, and I need to say that he's using humanoid animations, copy from this model. And so now he should have an avatar we could try to plug in. So if I go back in here and I find the death pose, I could try plugging him in. Let's see what that does. So that got rid of my error. And next I'm going to find my animator controller that I made for NPC dead. I'm going to drag the death pose state in there, make sure it's got the right animation plugged in. It doesn't really need to loop, so I mean there's just, because like there's only one frame and it can just be set there on it. So now let's go find Derek in our scene, and I need to add a new, I haven't set him up yet, so I need to go into my prefabs and find the NPC, drag it onto him, and then plug in the animator for the NPC dead. And I haven't really set any of this up yet, but I think this should be good enough to get him playing that pose. And I'm just going to click on the scene window and look and see, and yeah, there he is. Now, I don't know if it makes sense to use this capsule collider like that for him. I guess I could, yeah, I don't know. Like, basically, I just had to figure out, like, what, like, I don't know if I want him to block the player from running over him like this. So maybe I actually just put some different collision shape on there, which I could do by, like, you know, I could go over to my colliders and just like uncheck this one, which, yeah, okay. And then I could add, I really don't know what collision shape makes sense, to be honest. Maybe it just should not be a collider and it should just be a trigger, to be honest. Maybe that would work. So I'll have to think about that problem, but, you know, worst case scenario, I could add, you know, like maybe a box collider or a circle collider, or I mean a sphere collider. And just leave it on the floor like that, and maybe make it a trigger and see if that would work. Let's give it a shot. My thought is if it's a trigger, I will be able to pass through it and I won't be blocked by it, but I think it will still detect that I'm that I can interact with it. Yeah, that worked. So maybe really, oh, I would need to get rid of his barks also. Anyway, so that should give you a little bit of an idea of how to set something like that up too. All right, cool. That's it for this video.